بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. I would like also, in my turn, to congratulate you and congratulate my dear brothers and sisters for the birth anniversary of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Tonight's session, as is mentioned, is dedicated to Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And I wanted to touch on a topic, although in one session we can only just have an overview, very brief overview about the time, the period that Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam guided the Shia community, and some of the challenges that Imam alayhi salam was facing when he took the leadership of the Shia community after his father Imam Rida alayhi salam. So we will touch some of the topics, some of the concerns, some of the difficulties, and how Imam alayhi salam managed to guide Shia through that situation and difficult time. Let me start with naming some of the challenges that the Shia community was facing after the martyrdom of Imam Rida alayhi salam, the dire situation of the Shia community at the time. There was this concern about the future of the Shia after Imam Rida alayhi salam was martyred, and it was specifically to the fact that the representative of Imam Rida alayhi salam was not much clear to all the Shia, and Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam was not but about some reports says 6 years old or 8 years old when Imam Rida alayhi salam was martyred. So this age for someone to be the leader of the Shia community in a very sensitive and difficult time, and he's just a child of 6 or 8, that was very difficult for the Shia to digest it, to understand it. Let me give you an example. So it is said that after the martyrdom of Imam Rida alayhi salam, some of the companions of the Imam, the figures, the prominent figures of Shia, they gathered in Baghdad. People like Rayyan ibn Salt, Safwan ibn Yahya, Muhammad ibn Hakim, Abdul Rahman ibn Hajjaj, and Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman. They are, and some other figures and well-known scholars, Shia scholars, and representatives of Imam Rida alayhi salam. They gathered in the house of Abdul Rahman ibn Hajjaj, crying and paining for the crisis, for the loss of Imam Rida alayhi salam. So the report says that then Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman, the well-known companion of Imam Rida alayhi salam, addresses the others. Da'ul buka. Let go of crying. That's not the time for crying. من لهذا الأمر وإلى من نقصد بالمسائل إلى أن يكبر هذا الصبي. Who is going to guide us? And who is going to answer our question, inquiries, and difficulties until the time that this child gets to an age that he can guide the community? He meant Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. And the report says that وَكَانَ لَهُ سَتَّ سَنِينَ وَشُهُورٍ. He was just 6 years old and a few months. And then Yunus continues, أَنَا وَمَنْ مِثْلِي. Am I going to guide the community or someone like me? Who is going to do that? The report says that this word of Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman led to a conflict, a physical conflict between him and Rayyan ibn Salt. So Rayyan started attacking him, saying that you are you show and you claim to be a believer, but deep down you have doubts about the Vilayah, about the Imam. Don't you know that if someone is the Imam, it doesn't matter how much, what's the age that he is in. So this kind of conflict that took place at the just after Imam Rida alayhi salam was martyred, and the conflict is among the prominent figures of Shia. It shows how the situation was dire and how much the community was concerned. And we should not be surprised to see that someone like Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman doubts the status of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, because it was the first time in the history of Islam, after the Prophet peace be upon him, that someone at this age was going to lead the Shia community. We had no other similar instance since the early Islam. So it was difficult for some people to accept that a child of 6, a child of 8 is going to guide the Shia community in such a difficult situation. And why it was also a difficult situation? Because it was at the time that, similar to the challenges that other imams they're facing at the time of the Umayyad caliphs and then the Abbasid caliph, Shia was being understood as a direct threat to the rule. And that's why you see in the time of the Umayyads and the time of Abbasid, they are suppressing Shia out of the fear of the claim, of the fear of the Imam's claim. And this kind of tension, this kind of suppression was being halted for a while due to Imam Rida alayhi salam accepting the rule, to be the successor to Ma'mun. So to be called a prince of the rule had certain privileges, including a kind of protection for the Shia community at the time of Imam Rida alayhi salam. And now that Imam Rida alayhi salam is gone, the Shia community was feeling the threat from the rule and was confused, concerned, who is going to help us now? And not only the matter of the security was concerning the Shia community, was also the kind of the threat, the ideological threat that was posing to Shia community. Ma'mun was empowering Mu'tazilites. So as you may know, there were two main groups in a school of theology among Ahlul Sunnah at the time, the Ash'arites and Mu'tazilites. So Mu'tazilites were more rational, had a kind of more rational approach to theology, and Ma'mun was a proponent of Mu'tazilites. So with them coming to power, so Mu'tazilites were not hesitating in presenting challenges to Ahlul Bayt, to the Shia community, to tarnish the reputation that the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt had established through the centuries, to prove that no, they are not infallible, they don't have the knowledge that people assume. So there was a challenge from the side of Mu'tazilites. We're trying to challenge the status of the Imams. At the same time, we see that even other groups like Ahlul Hadith, they have more literalist approach to understanding Islam. And even Mujassama, people who believed in a kind of physical body for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even Ghulat, the one who claimed and believed in divine status of Ahlul Bayt, they were all posing different challenges to the Shia community at the time. And some challenges were becoming serious. So we have in some of the reports, for example, that some Shias, they doubted, somehow they fall for the Mujassamas ideology and somehow doubted about whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a physical body or not. We have certain reports supporting this. So it was a very dire situation for the Shia community. They lost the Imam. They were not sure who is going to guide them next. They lost the security, the safety that they believed that they had because of the status that Imam Reza alayhi salam had. And also they were under attack, under ideological attack from the Mu'tazilites, Ahlul Hadith, Mujassamas, from Ghulat. And not only that, there were also a confusion as there were advocates for the other children of, for example, for Imam al-Qadam alayhi salam or Imam Reza alayhi salam, claiming to be for Imam al-Qadam alayhi salam, claiming to be the Imam. So some, for example, were advocating for Ahmad ibn Musa, who was the uncle to Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. So even some groups like Waqifiyya, they also started propagating, we were correct to say that the Imam al-Qadam was the last Imam, because Imam al doesn't have a child. How it is possible for Imam to not have a child, or not having a child would be in the age, because towards the end of the Imam al-Rida's imamate. So some Shias were concerned that Imam doesn't have a child. So it was Imam al-Islam assuring them that I will have someone to represent me. But Waqifiyya, they took the opportunity, he doesn't have a child, or even after Imam Jawad was born, they were questioning, how a child can lead the community. So we were right in saying that Imam al-Qadam was the last Imam. So you see all these challenges coming at the time that Imam al-Jawad al-Islam is going to take the lead of the community, and he is just, at least in appearance, a child. So how Imam al-Jawad al-Islam managed through these difficulties, how he guided the community. Very briefly, I'm bringing some examples. So let's say about whether he is the right representative of Imam Reza, and he can lead a community in such an age. One of the instances that happened after what I mentioned before, the conflict among the prominent Shia figures between Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman, Rayyan ibn Sa'd, and the others, they decided to come to Medina and to investigate the matter by themselves, to see if they can find who is going to guide the community. So it was the time of Hajj. So some of the jurists and fuqaha from Baghdad and the others and the other scholars, about 80 people of the prominent figures of the Shia community, they came to Hajj, and then they went for Medina to see Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. So they came to the house of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. At the time it was available, so they could stay there. And the report says, first it was Abdullah ibn Musa, the uncle of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, who came to visit them. He sat down in the beginning of the top of the location there in the room, and someone called that he is the son of the Prophet. Whoever has a question, they can ask. So it was the custom that for the Shia scholars, for the prominent figures, to ask some questions from the representative of the. So after an imam is martyred, is lost, to ask some questions from the representative to determine who is the imam, even if they knew for the community to know that. So they came and started asking questions. So they ask question about someone who says, for example, a statement about divorcing his wife, or someone who committed a crime, and asked Abdullah to answer. And Abdullah responded to in a way that the scholars and the jurists, or the Shia jurists, they knew the responses are wrong. فورد على الشيعة محيرهم وغمهم واضطربت الفقهاء وقاموا وحموا بالانصراف. So they were just shocked that this guy is not the right one. He's responding to the questions improperly, and the Shia figures became anxious. They wanted to leave the session, and they said to themselves, the report says that if Imam al-Jawad knew better, he was going to come and to answer. The fact that Abdullah came to respond, it means that we have no hope there. It was at that time that the door was opened and Imam al-Jawad entered. And it was announced that he is Abu Ja'far, he is Imam al-Jawad. فقاموا إليه بأجمعهم واستقبلوه وسلموا عليه. Then the community returned, they greeted Imam, and then they started asking the same questions. And Imam alayhi salam responded carefully, very adequately, and referencing verses of Quran. It was Abdullah then who tried to defend himself, because the companions said, well, your uncle said something else. So Imam warned his uncle twice that, oh uncle, لا إله إلا الله يا عبد الله إنه عظيم عند الله أن تقف غدا بين يدي الله فيقول لك لما أفتيت عبادي بما لا تعلم وفي الأمة من هو أعلم منك. Oh uncle, this is big. You may consider it just trivial, but for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's big. To come among the people, in the day of to come among the people, and you give fatwa on something that you know there are people who are more knowledgeable than you to respond to that. Abdullah, in defending himself, he said, I heard my brother Imam answering in the same way. And then Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam responds, no, the question was that. He mentions exactly the question that Imam alayhi salam was questioned, and then explains the response. It was at the time that a kind of certainty, kind of assurance was being bestowed upon the heart of the figures of the Shia. They knew that this child, they understood this child is not just a child. He is connected to the knowledge of the Imam. So this is one example. So you see among the Shia community, but at the same time, this challenge of the idea of challenging the status of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam was not just something that, a kind of question only for the Shia community, but among the Sunni community, they also saw an opportunity to question the authenticity of the claim of Ahlul Bayt. So one of the instances says that they asked Yahya ibn Aktham. Yahya ibn Aktham, who also I mentioned that in my lecture about Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. He was known as one of the top scholars, and he was a judge at the time of the Ma'mun. He was appointed as the head of the judges. So some people, they asked him, maybe some of the uh, companions of the Ma'mun, they asked him to challenge Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. He's a child. And they bribed him and they promised him many things, including the financial means, if he can prove that Imam al-Jawad can ask a question that Imam al-Jawad would not be able to answer. And they expected it because he's a child. So they decided on a day and they asked people together. And then Yahya ibn Aktham asks Ma'mun. And so Ma'mun, the report says that Ma'mun asked Imam al-Jawad to sit next to him. So uh, giving him, elevating his status. And then Yahya ibn Aktham asked Ma'mun, can I ask Abu Ja'far some questions? And Ma'mun says yes. And deep down, Ma'mun also was hoping that he can challenge and he can prove that Imam al-Jawad is not able to lead the committee, is not as knowledgeable as the others. So it could just break down the claim of Ahlul Bayt. So Yahya asks a question, and he picks the question very carefully. He asks a question. He says, he asks first Imam al-Jawad if he can ask his question. تأذن لي جعلت فداك في مسألة, and then Imam responds فقال له أبو جعفر عليه السلام سل إن شئت. We can ask if you want. And then Yahya asks ما تقول جعلت فداك في محرم قتل صيدا. What's your opinion? What is the punishment? What is the fine for someone who is muhrim, who entered in the ihram to do hajj, and he killed Said, killed, for example, a bird? What is the fine? Why Yahya asked this question? Because he knew that there are so many branches to this question, so many scenarios. And he was sure that Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam would not be able to answer. And then Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam asked him a question. فقال له أبو جعفر عليه السلام قتله في حل أو حرم عالما كان المحرم أم جاهلا قتله عمدا أو خطأ حرا كان المحرم أم عبدا صغيرا كان أو كبيرا مبتدئا كان بالقتل أو معيدا من ذوات التير كان الصيد أو من غيرها من صغار الصيد كان أو من كباره مصرا على ما فعل أو نادما ليلا كان قتله الصيد أو نهارا محرما كان بالعمر إذ قتله أو بالحج كان محرما. Imam presented 22 scenarios that the rule was going to be different in each scenario. And the response of Imam was so shocking to Yahya ibn Aktham that he couldn't respond. And the anxious appeared on him. And the people around him, they understood that he's not able to follow. So this is another example. So these examples, these sessions, these stories that circulated among the people assured the Shia community that they have the right person guiding them. Although he is a child, but he is blessed by the knowledge of the Imam. And it also, the very fact that in such an age he was able to answer this question made even more fame for the Imam, and even showing that there is the divine support, divine blessing Otherwise, how a child of 6 can do this? It's not just a knowledge, you can learn it in a book. So this is one of the challenges, and you see that Imam's knowledge and his status as representative of the Imam Rida salam, as the ninth Imam of the Shia, was established, his status among the community. So that assured the community. But as I mentioned, another challenge was that the community lost that temporary security that they had under Imam Rida salam, because he was the prince. He was the successor of Ma'mun, and no one was daring to touch the community attributed to him. And Imam al-Jawad salam also helped the community in a similar way by agreeing to marry the Ma'mun's daughter. Imam knew by doing this, he is taking a spy in his house. However, one of the reasons that Imam accepted, like Imam Rida was to extend this protection to the Shia community, to help them. And not only that, Imam also encouraged some of the prominent Shia figures to take position in the rule, in the government, and to use it to help the community. So we have reports of people like Muhammad ibn Ismail, Ahmad ibn Hamza. They took high levels, high positions in the government. Muhammad ibn Darraj, he was the judge of Baghdad, and then he was appointed the judge of the Kufa. And some others like the Hussein ibn Abdullah al-Nishaburi, he was the governor of Bust and Sistan. And Hakam ibn Uliya Asadin, he was appointed as the governor of Bahrain. And all were the companions and the Shias of Imam Jawad salam. And there are some reports, for example, Khulani narrates that some of the Shias of Bust and Sistan, he wrote to Imam Jawad salam and asked for his help, because he was not able to pay the tax. He asked for Imam's help, and when Imam wrote to his Shia, was at the time the governor of Sistan, Abdullah al-Nishaburi, Hussein ibn Abdullah al-Nishaburi. He followed Imam's advice and eased the situation for that Shia. So just one example, I'm telling that there are many other examples. So Imams, the similar way you see in the other Imams, for example, Imam al-Kazim alayhi salam, encouraging Ali ibn Yaqtin to maintain the position as the prime minister of Harun, was to help the Shia community. So Imam also did his role and helped the community and protecting the community by, as I mentioned, by accepting the hand of the Ma'mun's daughter, and at the same time encouraging Shia to take position in the government so they can help other Shias when they are in need. So the other challenge I mentioned was about the kind of threat that posed by Mu'tazilites, by Ahlul Hadith, by Mujassamas, by Ghulat, ideological threat. And Imam alayhi salam was very solid, and he committed himself to answering those kind of questions, kind of the responding to those doubts raised. So Shias, they wrote to the Imam asking about the ideas of Mujassamas. Imam alayhi salam responded, denied, explained, and even he asked Shias to not perform prayer so behind those people, those imams or those scholars who believe in tajsim, who believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has physical body, just as a way to fight this kind of deviation, ideological deviation. And then even Imam prohibited his Shia to pay zakat to such scholars, to discourage this kind of understanding, this kind of mentality that is going to challenge the heart and the core of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you see there are instances of his companions asking questions about this kind of related inquiries. Like, for example, Abu Hashim Ja'fari, he asked Imam alayhi salam about the verse, La tudrikuhu al-absar wa huwa yudrikuhu al-absar. And Imam explains it in a way that Hashim can understand, that it is not the way that Mujassamas, they understand this kind of verses. And it's not about a physical seeing. And so many other instances here we have. And not only Imam himself was responding to this kind of deviations, providing awareness to Shias. He was also raising disciples, versed in theology, versed in rational knowledge, intellectual knowledge, sending them to different areas of the Islamic community to help people and to fight this kind of deviated ideologies. I mentioned in my lecture about the Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, how Ghulat, they introduced themselves. They claim to be representative of the Imams. They claim that Imam is al-awwalul qadim. He is the eternal. He is eternal. He is God, and we are his representative. I mentioned the kind of deviation that they were trying to introduce to the Shia community. They claim that Ibn Haska, as I mentioned in the previous lecture, claimed that, Imam is eternal, and he's not, to know Imam, to understand Imam is the heart of the prayer, Hajj, fasting, all of this. So if you know Imam, and if you get the opportunity to have proper knowledge, proper understanding, insight about Imam, then you are dismissed of having the obligation to perform prayers or fasting or fast or do this or that, of the kind of the physical practices. These are just instances of deviations that we're trying to preach among the Shia community. And you see that Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam and later on Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, they stand firmly against this kind of deviations. The other challenge at the time was, as I mentioned, this kind of deviation among Shias, confusion, and the opportunity that so the ones who were advocating for Ahmad ibn Musa, or advocating, for example, Abdullah ibn Musa, or advocating for Waqifis or for Zaydis, they were trying to use this kind of this confusion among the Shias to attract them to their own division. And after Imam Jawad alayhi salam took the leadership of the community, he proved himself, his knowledge, his wisdom, and his ability to guide the community in a way that those kind of initial doubts were suppressed totally. So people found back again their trust to the Imam alayhi salam, and that strengthened the community once again. And Imam alayhi salam managed the community and helped the community and directed the community to go through those challenges as his time. So to wrap up my discussion tonight, as I mentioned, at the time of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, so about 17 or 19 years of guiding the Shia community, Imam was martyred in a young age, 25. But during this time, Imam helped the community. Imam once again maintained the community after his father Imam addressed those concerns that the community they had, mainly the concern about the age of the Imam. It was the first instance in the history of Islam that someone in his age, 6 years old or 8 years old, to guide a community and in such a difficult time. So after the martyrdom of Imam, people being concerned about their security. And also at the time that the Shia was under attack from the Mu'tazilas who were empowered, supported by the rule, by the Ma'mun himself, and by other people, al-Hadith, Mujassamas, and Ghulat. And also those kind of the, unfortunately, wrong moves among some of the people in the household of Imam Kazim alayhi salam, who tried to claim the imamah for themselves. So it was the ability and the steadfast leadership of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam that proved to the community that he is the one who can guide the community. He is the one who can help the community. Although some Shias, they doubted it. And even this doubt was not only at the time of the Imam Jawad alayhi salam, as I mentioned, after the martyrdom of Imam Rida alayhi salam. It was at the time of Imam Rida alayhi salam as well. So we have in one of the hadiths that is one of the companions. He mentions that I was in presence of Imam Rida alayhi salam بتوس Mashhad, in Mashhad, and someone came to him and asked him, in حدث حدث فإلى من? If something happens to you, O Imam, who is going to guide us? Then Imam Rida alayhi salam says, قال ابني Muhammad. So my son Muhammad. And at the time, so Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, maybe he was 3 years old, 4 years old. And then the one who asked the question, he found it difficult to accept that a child in this age can guide the community. And Imam Rida alayhi salam reminded him, إن الله تعالى بعث عيسى ابن مريم عليه السلام ثابتا بإقامة شريعته في دون السن الذي أقيم فيه أبو جعفر ثابت على شريعته. Be aware, be mindful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed Isa to lead the community in an age less than age of Abu Ja'far right now. So if Allah wants to do that, he can do that. And Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, with his conduct and his strong leadership of the community, proved this point to the community that he is, as Shia believe, he is the representative supported by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he is the one, the path to guide the community. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the blessing to acknowledge, to follow, to pay our debt to our imams, to the sacrifices they made for the community, and to follow their path and to spread their words and to become and to be among their true followers, inshallah. Please recite aloud salawat.